Alrighty, welcome to the blog for Monday the 10th of September. Just bring up the daily charts. So here we are. You can see we're getting a retracement now, but coming up to the start of Monday, we're very much sitting at the highs on the daily chart. So when that happens, the market really slows down. If they're going to try and push higher, which I did do a couple of times, price action is going to be very slow. As a result, we saw very slow price action. But then, the sell-offs start to come, and as soon as you start to get a retracement, that's when the markets will start to pick up. Just want to bring over the 15-minute chart. Right, so 15-minute chart here. You can see we had that initial burst where we push higher, but then as soon as we hit these, once the market's finished with that momentum, it's really gone sideways and it's going to struggle to push higher. You can see a couple of times it tried to go higher, came across a lot of resistance, but in the end it got underneath some of these areas here, underneath that 33 level, and it's popped straight down to this area here. So I've just recently added this in after Monday's trading. Spoke about this in that little bit of a week ahead wrap up, saying, let me squash up the charts. So now I really like this top. Okay, if the market comes down, reacts to that top in some way, then we've got sort of the market coming from underneath it having a reaction, coming from above it having a reaction, and that creates quite a significant support and resistance or key level in the market. Now it almost to the tick had a decent quite a bounce off that level, so straight away drawing that level in and very interested to what it does that in the future. In the pre-market, it comes up back and tests it, uses a resistance and pushes lower. That'll be fantastic to see. Great for price action and great to really consolidate that as a key level in the market. So I added that one in, and it's one that hopefully will start to play a bit of a role in this market. You can see we're getting quite a decent retracement now. So as far as what I was looking for the day, no trades. First movement of the day, you can see I've boxed the pre-market here. So just interested in the market, creating a pivot in the cash market. So this is sort of really trying to streamline this directional breakout. So creating a pivot, near, it needs to be within a couple of ticks of the breakout box. So all of a sudden it's creating a pivot right in the middle of this range here. Well, that's not, for me, it's not so significant. It's sort of not encouraging the use of key areas. So just for the right at the start of the day, I believe that where the pre-market's been, sort of the top and bottom of that area. So there it is there. That's significant support and resistance, and once they sort of break out of it one way or another, if there's all other markets supporting it, then it's a good area to get a continuation of the movement. So you can see twice of market. So we've come up, just pushed through the breakout box there, turned around. So that's a key area if we come back and test it. We've then come down, created a pivot there. So I really like this downside one, obviously, because knowing that the upside was going to be very tough to push higher. If it came to the downside, all the other markets push through it. I'm very interested in that. That did happen later in the afternoon. Didn't happen here. The markets never came back, but I'll certainly keep an eye on what the other markets want to do if they did come back and had this pivot marked. Eventually, we'd come back to this upside pivot. Just not a percentage trade if you're looking at trying to trade up the upside of this particular area here. Talked a lot about in the trading room. Some of the markets, just one other market, Dow Jones was sort of supporting the ES. It was trying to go a little bit higher, but the Russell and especially the Nasdaq, well and truly off that pivot, just no market support whatsoever, and as a result it just couldn't get any momentum to push through it. It's got through in the end. It got through further than I thought, 6 ticks. I think this purple line up here I've marked, that's the gap, so it's a key area of the market just for today. You can see the market's bounced off the gap to the tick, but I think that was the only reason it got up there, just to get to that gap, and as a result it just come back, tried to go high, just kept going at it a few times. It just never had any momentum to push through it. From there, through the middle of the day, price action very slow. So again, I'm looking at these pivotal points as far as reversals in the market. So 2 key points, sort of mark them here, that I was watching is this particular one here, and this particular one here. Okay, so market's popped up, it's come back at it at this one here. Now let me show you the difference between these two areas. It's quite significant. Let me bring over the Dow Jones. And I'll mark on the Dow Jones the same thing. So here it is here. Here's sort of the, it's up around here, but it's sort of around this area here. And that second pivotal point, this one here. Okay, so when the market came down here, popped up, really not interested in the upside. It was getting some rejection, some really good rejection off that gap. Came down, looked to see if all the markets are pushing through this particular point here and really getting a sell-off, and if all the markets are going, it's potentially a good area to sell from. But you can see the Dow Jones and all the other markets, for that matter, just weren't getting any sort of pressure on the downside. Then they popped back up from that second pivotal point, but you can see this time when the ES was approaching, look at the Dow Jones, it's already pushing through it. So it's really changed its tune from the market that was most on the upside to pushing through, well and truly pushing through this area. The Nasdaq was well and truly through it as well. It was keen on the downside all day long, and the Russell, it was the only one. It hadn't actually broken it, but it was there in the area looking potentially push lower. So it was probably the most significant area of the day, probably one of the most probable areas of the day, and the area I was most interested in trading. But in saying that, in hindsight, it's obviously worked really well, but price action was just so tight. Just obviously there's this key level here too that could potentially hold the market up, which it went sideways for a bit and then push lower. But as far as trading area, wasn't actually a setup. I just wanted to point out that how significant these other markets are in pushing through these key pivotal points within the market, and eventually it's really gone lower. But overall, no setups for the day. Some potential areas, but none came to fruition. But then, right at the end of the day, just really good to see. I didn't see this happening live, but I come in to the office and then all of a sudden see the market almost to the tick bounce off that previous high, straight away mark that in as a support and resistance area. So that's a wrap up for Monday, and we're back on Tuesday.